Are your choices truly your own, or are unseen forces shaping your thoughts and life? Yoga philosophy reveals three powerful forces: karma, time, and the gunas, that quietly govern our lives, but it also reveals the way to rise above them. Let's explore karma, time, and the gunas ecosystem through the lens of Bhaktivedanta to see how these energies shape our thoughts, actions, and destiny. This episode is essential for anyone wanting to understand why spiritual freedom requires more than just good intentions, but a fundamental shift in consciousness. We're born into a complex psychological and karmic ecosystem ruled by time, and it's the combination of the modes of material nature called the guna ropes, time and karma, that make up the inexorable, impenetrable reality of the universe. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna offers us revolutionary insights about these three universal laws and principles. Let's consider the gunas first, because most of us are less familiar with the word and its meaning. The word guna can be translated as rope, qualities, attributes, or characteristics. Within a philosophical context, gunas refers to the fundamental qualities of material nature. They are the ruling forces in the world. We can think of them as energetic states or operational principles that shape perception and behaviors from the microcosmic to the macrocosmic. In other words, they operate in our minds and bodies and the universe itself. For us, their subtle and pervasive influence acts like ropes that bind us to the world. There are three gunas of material nature, and each has a specific characteristic and function. Let's look at them. The gunas are Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. Sattva can be translated as goodness or illumination. Rajas is passion, activity, or desire, and tamas is darkness, dullness, inertia, laziness, and confusion. A friend of mine who taught Ayurveda for years refers to these as order, activity, and disorder. Sattva brings things into intelligent, benevolent order. Rajas brings on activity and striving, and tamas disorders, disintegrates, and corrupts. Let's dig a little deeper. Sattva guna gives us clarity, knowledge, harmony, mindfulness, and virtue. Under the influence of sattva, we're calm, clear-headed, and service-oriented. We gain and value truth, wisdom, and inner peace. Rajas is passion, activity, or desire. When it predominates, we become restless, filled with ambition, and engaged in constant activity. Its influence drives productivity and change, but it's also tied to feelings of anxiety, craving, and displays of ego. Tamas is darkness, dullness, inertia, laziness, and confusion. When tamas reigns, we become apathetic, depressed, or immersed in destructive habits. It produces ignorance and clouds our judgment. The gunas sometimes dispose us to act virtuously, sometimes passionately, or sometimes apathetically. Just as we can mix the primary colors red, yellow, and blue to create thousands of new shades, so the gunas provide the palette that colors the creation. We can easily observe the gunas acting in our own psyches. Let's take a second and think of a song or sound vibration you find calming. Now, think of another that gets you excited or wanting to dance. And now, one you find chaotic or depressing. You've just identified three pieces of music in the modes of sattva, rajas, and tamas, respectively. And it's the interaction of the gunas that creates variety all around us. We can think of the three gunas as operational principles that manifest as a person's qualities, peculiarities, or attributes. In other words, our personalities and thoughts are, in large measure, influenced by the gunas. And these invisible ropes tie into everything, from nature to art to music, dance, sports, business, knowledge. All thoughts and emotions are colored by them. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna details how the gunas manifest in psychology, faith, food, entertainment, charity, worship, relationships, knowledge, actions, and more. For instance, early morning is the time of day dominated by Sattva. The middle of the day is when Rajas takes hold, and at night Tamas takes effect. The countryside is Sattvic, the city is Rajasic, and a bar or place of gambling is Tamasic. In our own lives, we don't always get to choose which guna is dominant. Sometimes we wake up depressed, not wanting to move from the bed. Other days we wake happy to try to get things done. The three ropes are always pulling at us, each vying for supremacy over the other, and they never stop. In the language of modern psychology, we might think of these as energetic patterns or hardwired tendencies that influence our moods, motivations, and even our spiritual openness. The Gita tells us we're like marionettes whose strings are being pulled by the competing gunas. That image might be a little frightening, but it's accurate according to yoga philosophy, and that's why Krishna reveals this knowledge to awaken us to our condition. If we take the time to learn a little about the modes of nature, we'll begin to see how they work in everything we do, from the food we choose to eat, to the neighborhoods we choose to live in, to the company we choose to keep, to the work we choose to do. The gunas can offer enlightened thought, they can increase material longing, or they can immobilize us. Each of the gunas has its role to play. When we need sleep, we want tamas. When it's time to get something done, we need rajas. And when we need to learn, we want sattva or illumination. Now, we can culture certain modes of nature in us by engaging in activities and association and by eating the foods related to them. For example, one can develop the mode of ignorance by drinking alcohol, which will soon spread the influence of tamas throughout the entire body. Rajas is increased by working strenuously while remaining strongly attached to the results for one's own gain. Krishna teaches that we should strive to first situate ourselves in sattva, and on that foundation engage in a spiritual practice. When we learn how sattva appears in food, entertainment, charity, worship, relationships, places, work, knowledge, and actions, we can consciously choose sattva ways of being. For instance, a sattvic way of eating is based on principles of purity, harmony, and nourishment for both mind and body. Sattvic foods are fresh, natural, wholesome, energizing, and easy to digest. Sattva is strictly ahimsa. Eating in sattva means a vegetarian or vegan diet. The food is prepared prayerfully in a clean environment. And for those practicing bhakti, it is offered to the Supreme Person, transforming the food into prasadam, or making the food spiritually purifying. Such food cultivates devotion, peacefulness, and a steady mind, and should be eaten with awareness, gratitude, and devotion, making every meal a step forward towards spiritual purification. When we calm the mind through meditation, sattva is helping us. Being truthful, satisfied, self-controlled, compassionate, and detached from material desires are qualities of sattva. And dutifully engaging in work that is beneficial for others without being attached to the results is acting on the platform of sattva. Situating ourselves in sattvic ways of being is necessary for spiritual development. Now, the gunas are the waft and weave of the fabric of material nature, and woven with time, they form the physical field where we play and act on our desires. And combined with time, the gunas form the gears of the great karma machine. In the material world, Time is the great controller and keeps everything in a state of constant change. The universe and our lives move according to the wheel of time. It brings beginnings, endings, losses, and suffering over and over and over again. It controls our every breath, dictates when we die. When we exit the body, we will find ourselves in another body that will die again. This wandering of the soul is called samsara. The grinding machine of the gunas, time and karma, is meant to pressure us to find solutions because we don't belong here. The self is eternal, undying unit of consciousness, so it never finds home in a temporary, always changing environment that operates contrary to its inherent nature. That we resist change and death are signs that we want freedom from the stranglehold of time. And periodically, we may find peace in the present moment, but we can't escape the reality of time and its existence as past and future. Now let's turn to karma. Time and the gunas control all aspects of inert matter and the souls in the world, but karma specifically acts on the conscious beings in the world. Karma dictates that nothing we do is inconsequential. It means that for every action we perform, we experience a reaction. The karmic justice system isn't always seen to act immediately, and it travels with the soul from body to body, from lifetime to lifetime. In other words, karma is always active and follows us forever. In an unending cycle, good actions are rewarded and bad actions are punished. But we should take special note that good karma isn't as good as we might think. Virtuous acts aren't inherently spiritual acts and therefore cannot free us from material bondage. In fact, if we're attracted to them and attached, we remain in the world to receive good karma for our good acts. In this way, good action is as binding as improper action when it's materially motivated. Virtuous deeds are wholesome, but not spiritual. I'd like to state that again so we don't miss this point. Sattva and virtue are valuable and worthy states, but they are not spiritual. Good acts won't liberate us. The key distinction is that ethics bring material blessings, but bhakti frees us from bondage. Karma is at play when work is done for my happiness and the happiness of others without any offering to the Supreme. Bhakti connects our actions to Bhagavan and are above virtue and social good. The law of action and reaction, both good and bad karma, is structured in such a way as to educate us and encourage us to evolve. So, how should we act if both good and bad karma is material and binding? The Gita explains that there is action, inaction, and non-binding or spiritualized action. Let's consider action, inaction, and spiritual action. We've heard that good and bad actions bind us, but so does inaction. Even if you become a recluse and only meditate, you still need to eat and breathe. When you light a fire to cook, you'll inadvertently kill living organisms with the flame or heat. Just by breathing, we kill living organisms. When we take from the environment, any violence we commit, however minuscule, has a reaction. So trying to stop all action is not actually feasible. We can't stop breathing and eating. However, if you eat and breathe and do everything else for the pleasure of the Supreme Personal Absolute, then you have spiritualized your action. Those actions are outside the law of karma and the influence of the gunas, and they don't incur any reaction. In fact, such devotional action, even if inadvertently or accidentally you harm someone, you're not held liable. The words inadvertent and accidental are key here. Therefore, only spiritual action can liberate us from the endless cycle of karma. The Gita explains that inaction doesn't mean stopping all movement. real inaction is spiritual movement. Spiritual movement means moving in relation to our source, our root of being. When we act to please our divine friend, that action has no karmic reaction. Whatever is performed in this world with the prideful thought of I am the doer is called karma, whereas whatever we do for the Supreme's pleasure, knowing that we are a loving servant, is called bhakti. Loving devotional service to the sweet Absolute is spiritual movement. It is bhakti. It isn't passive spirituality. Bhakti is a lifestyle, not just a philosophy, one that's grounded, active, and joyful. Such action lifts us from the quicksand of karma altogether. We've heard or seen that the more someone moves in contact with quicksand, the deeper they sink. Only one who stands on solid ground can help us out. Similarly, only that which is outside the jurisdiction of karma, time, and the gunas can lift us from the precarious quicksand of the material energy. That is the spiritual energy, or bhakti. After explaining all about these laws of the material world and reviewing the various yoga systems that are meant to free us, Krishna repeatedly says that bhakti yoga is the best and surest method of spiritual attainment. He says, this material energy of mine, consisting of the three modes of material nature, is very difficult to overcome. But those who have surrendered to me can easily cross beyond it. Bhakti is easy to perform. It destroys the effects of karma. It frees one from the fear of time and situates us above the gunas. And it removes the knot of ignorance that fosters misconceptions of me and mine and puts the practitioner into direct contact with the sweet Absolute. How can bhakti offer all these benefits? Because it's a descending spiritual energy that is beyond the influence of the gunas, time, and karma. Bhakti is the energy of mercy, and it defeats the energy of justice or the cosmic karmic laws. The Bhagavad Purana says that one who takes to bhakti is never deviated. Even someone who chooses to run along the path with eyes closed will never slip or fall. The ropes of karma, time, and the gunas are tight, but not unbreakable. With insight, discipline, and the descending grace of bhakti, we can loosen the knots that bind us and reclaim our true identity as eternal, joyful souls. We don't need to escape the world. We just need to realign ourselves with our source. Thanks for exploring bhakti with me today. I hope this exploration of the gunas, time, and karma gave you deeper insight into how the world around us and even within us functions. I have a question for you. Where in your own life do you most feel the ropes of the gunas, time, or karma tugging? And how might bhakti offer you a new kind of freedom? In our next episode, we'll discuss that the world exists for two reasons. To continue exploring, please subscribe, and to give the gift of knowledge forward, please share. Until then, may your life be filled with clarity, courage, and connection. Swastiastu Vishvasya. May there be good fortune throughout the universe and for you.